Oh my god, dude. Yo guys, what is up? Moxie here with another Borderlands 3 video, and today we are going to be discussing a new bug slash glitch with weapons that have come out with the new Mayhem 4 mode that is allowing some weapons to completely outperform others. We're going to be discussing the in-depth mechanics in part of the Ricochet Witch build, what weapons you should be using on Mayhem 4 to be able to do the most damage, and why this is happening and how to abuse it the most. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. With that, let's get right into it. So, this bug, I guess we could call it, or interaction, we'll call it an interaction. I did not discover. One of my Twitch viewers brought it up to me, and we played around with it a lot during our stream. And it made me realize, because I thought I understood, in part, why the Ricochet Witch build is so freaking good, and why the Recursion performs so well on Amara. And I learned some things about it that I didn't know. And that is because currently, when we're using weapons that ricochet, weapons that spawn additional projectiles, weapons like that are going to be spawning bonus projectiles because of these anointments. Anointments that are giving us bonus damage, as long as they're not matching with our damage that we're doing with our gun, will spawn additional projectiles that they wouldn't normally have, because it's registering that as multiple projectiles instead of one projectile, so that one projectile is spawning additional projectiles. Kind of confusing, and we're going to break it down. I'll show it to you guys real quick. So I haven't used my action skill. I got no points anywhere, right? So we shoot Mr. Jack here. We're getting 3 projectiles to spawn, right? 3 projectiles to spawn and hit him. Now, if we spec Confusion into, let's do shock damage, right? So now we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're getting more projectiles because we just changed our element, which is awesome. And before Mayhem 4 and these new anointments where we got bonus damage, we could only use 2 elements pretty much max on a gun, unless it had an anointment for a bonus, then you could, or bonus magazine, then you could use 3. But now it's super easier to abuse this because we have on action skill and gain bonus additional elemental damage. So here we have 5. Now let's try using our action skill. So I'm going to be getting fire damage and radiation damage here. I'm going to use the action skill. Alright. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 projectiles from 3. We started at 3. We're tripling our damage. We're getting bonus damage while doing this, but we're getting bonus projectiles that are then doing bonus damage, which makes currently any weapon that ricochets incredible right now if you're using these anointments. Now, any Jacob's weapon ricochets. The way that ricochets work in Borderlands 3 and in Borderlands games is it spawns an additional projectile on ricochet instead of the bullet just like booming and zooming to the next enemy. So we're getting, the way this works is because the projectile isn't splitting, it's spawning a new one. And when it's spawning a new projectile, it's spawning multiple other projectiles. If that is confusing to you, make sure to leave me a comment or join the Discord and send me a message, because I'm happy to explain this to anyone. But because of this, we are getting ridiculous amounts of damage. look at that, dude. So this works really well on Amara because she can constantly spam her action skill. It works really well on Flak too, with Rack Attack, because he can also is a pretty spammy action skill. But this is so freaking cool looking, dude. Now the King's Call, Queen's Call isn't the only gun that it's working with. So guns like the Rowan's Call, the Lucian's Call, any Jacob's weapon is doing this right now. Let's grasp. Yeah. It's bananas. So what about the projectile recursion? Because if we use the projectile recursion against this dummy, this stupid dummy, you won't get an additional projectile because the recursion doesn't spawn additional projectiles unless an enemy is nearby. But I went out, I ventured out into the world, and I did some testing on this, and I believe that the projectile recursion is, one, in part really good on Amara because of this skill, Indiscriminate. But in the clip I'm about to play, I wasn't spec'd into Indiscriminate at all. I had no points into Indiscriminate, and yes, when we're activating our action skill, we're getting this bonus damage, so it's going to do more damage. But you can see that crazy projectiles are spawning because of this bug that's happening with any weapon that's spawning additional projectiles. Alright, let's get into the clip. So, just to be clear, there are really good guns for Mayhem 4. The Cutsman, the Brainstormer, both come to mind immediately, but I do believe that these spawning projectile guns right now are really performing because of these new anointments. Now, I just shot there, and you could see that I'm hitting every enemy, right, with the recursion. It's not doing that much damage. It is hard to do photo mode with the recursion because, you know, it like pings back crazy fast. But that was without our action skill, hardly moving. It hit every enemy. We have no Indiscriminate. Now, proc my action skill. And yeah, that happens. Amara is able to constantly proc her action skill, meaning we can keep up our buffs. And meaning that every time we shoot this projectile recursion, we're getting crazy amounts of projectiles. And this, like, ping-ponging back and forth, if you've seen this build, if you played it yourself, you know that when you do this, you get like a lag spike, basically, when you shoot the gun in between a group of enemies. That isn't happening if you're not proccing your action skill. You're not getting that big ping of, like, or drop in frame rate. And so, as it's, like, harder to see with the recursion, I do believe that this is what's happening. If it's not what's happening, feel free to prove me wrong. But as you can see, there's crazy projectiles going everywhere, and that makes the recursion right now, I think, the best gun for Mayhem 4. Now, characters like Zane and Mose have a harder time proccing this because on action skill end, but with our new rack or flak bug with the rack attack anointment, you can really easily abuse this at all times with the recursion, which is super nice, and a lot of other things. I've seen a lot of confusion with the recursion. I was confused myself. Indiscriminate on Amara is helpful. Indiscriminate on Amara does help with the recursion's damage, but after finding this out, I really do think that the breakdown of the recursion witch and why it's so strong on Amara is because she's constantly proccing these bonus anointments with Indiscriminate and getting the ricochets. Just makes this an absolute killer. Now, this may get patched. if these bonus projectiles get patched, it'll definitely hurt this build, so I hope that doesn't happen. But right now it's super cool, and I recommend you guys play around with weapons like the Carrier, the Rowan's Call, the Lucian's Call, King's Call, and any weapon, like even the Maggie. The Maggie's doing really well right now. It ricochets, but not like these other guns, just because it's a Jacobs. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you learned something new, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace!